enough of Victoria. Let's look to politics in another state. It's a month to go before the Queensland election. That's going to be the first election in this country in this pandemic era. And you would think, cynically, that this virus would save Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk, given her huge publicity as the saviour of Queenslanders, bravely guarding the border, and don't you know how I'm suffering for you? And a poll this week showed big support for what she's been doing. But does that translate into winning an election? Because I remember huge support too for another Labor Premier, Anna Bligh, after another natural disaster, floods in Queensland. And then months later, she lost the election to the Liberal National Party's Campbell Newman. And I'm joined now by Campbell Newman. Campbell, it's great to catch up. Do you think history will repeat here? You know, big support for responding to a disaster, followed by a loss of the polls.
Well, I look to another example, and that is Winston Churchill post-World War II. Strongly supported, got Britain through that whole crisis and then was turfed out shortly thereafter. But I don't think that that's going to happen on this one. And I think we're heading for potentially a hung parliament. Minority government perhaps could be gained by the LNP, but I can't see them getting the 9 seats, which they need to get a clear majority, the way that this campaign is tracking, Andrew.
That is a bit of a hurdle. Now, let's look at a couple of issues. The price of Queensland's virus response, I wonder whether that's, figuring in this campaign so far. And I don't just mean the smashed tourism industry and the incredibly high unemployment, well above the national average. You've also got the Auditor-General now saying that this government has just spent, the Palaszczuk government, spent $7 billion in responding to the virus, and much of that spending wasn't actually properly assessed. The government has no idea, he reckons, whether the money really is supporting the economy. Do voters care about these things?
Look, I'm afraid they don't seem to care, particularly at the moment, Andrew. I think you could characterise it like this. You've got people who are giving, the polling showing that, a tick to the stance on the borders, and that frustrates the living daylights out of me, because I believe that it's been mismanaged, that it's been actually quite chaotic and cruel at times and heartless. We saw that in the last 2 weeks. I think the Premier did hurt her image quite significantly. Her approval numbers are down on polling I'd seen. Having said that, yes, it's been seen in a fairly overall positive light. But I think voters, some other polling I've seen as well, are looking to the future. They are thinking about economic recovery and jobs, but that's yet to bite. That's the opportunity for the LNP and Deb Frecklington. It's really to talk about an economic plan, because I think the LNP, on all the numbers I've ever seen, are more trusted to actually deal with economic issues. But deal with the state budget, I don't think people care about that too hurts the mud. And that's why, by the way, we see Josh Frydenberg and the PM doing what they feel they need to have to. They feel they need to have to do at the moment.
No, it's a shame, but the books were in a mess, of course, with a huge deficit even before tracking into this this virus crisis, and now they've got cover for blowing it even worse. Can I talk about a couple of personalities in this? When I first saw LNP leader Deb Frecklington, to be honest, I thought she lacked authority, she lacked confidence. I think she's improved since then. Is it enough?
Well, she had a good 2 weeks ago, she had a good fortnight, or a good week, I should say. I think she really had the Premier looking mean-spirited and cruel, and I think Frecklington handled herself extremely well. She looked calm and measured, and she was delivering hard points. But Andrew, what frustrates me is the lack of punch-through. Now, it's a very real disadvantage that all the media want to do is talk about COVID-19 every night on the box, and the LNP have great difficulty punching through. I mean, I turned on the TV on ABC News on a Sunday night. I've just sat there waiting for the story from the LNP, or even their involvement in stories on COVID, nothing at all. And they have to find a way to punch through, and that is to actually, again, criticise the very real failings and the inconsistencies and illogical decisions and the stupid nature of some of the things that are done. I mean, Tom Hanks, gets to quarantine, as do AFL footballers and officials in their particular way, but there's a different rule for Fred and Sarah Citizen.
Yeah, but I think Queenslanders will kind of like the AFL being there when the grand final will be held. What a surprise! 1 week before Election Day.
And Andrew, you would not believe. I don't know if you're aware of this, but there is an ongoing deluge of taxpayer-funded advertising going on. As I drove here this evening, all the bus stops on the road in 10 minutes drive in, and all the bus stops have got, "Aren't we doing a great job, COVID-19?" TV tonight. The commercial stations are full of ads saying the government's got this economic plan. It is the most outrageous, blatant electioneering that I've ever seen using taxpayer funds.
Of course. And of course, that'd be right. And if Brisbane gets in the grand final, you're really, I think Palaszczuk will cruise it in after that. Just quickly run out of time, but I need to ask you about this. In every Queensland election, there's the Hanson factor, Pauline Hanson, One Nation. What role will she play?
Those northern seats, and I think it's probably more, Katter actually stand to do well in the north. I mean, Townsville is a critical battleground area. There's three seats or 4 seats, if you take one of the regional ones as well, that are up for grabs up there, going into the Burdekin. And, there's a big crime issue, a youth crime issue, and Labor have been totally asleep at the wheel. That's the opportunity for the LNP to say pick up Mundingborough. But, that's where, again, KAP and One Nation, the factor of their preferences really will be very, very important. And they could actually gain an extra seat in the Townsville area. And,
of course, there's Clive Palmer spending millions on a campaigning tour, running huge ads in the paper and all that kind of thing. But he just wants to smash the Labor Party, so we'll see what happens there.
He does indeed. So it's, in summary, Andrew, for your viewers, it's very confused. And I'm having great deal of difficulty in calling this election. I've got to tell you that.
Wow, that's how elections should be. There's no interest in walkovers. Thank you so much indeed for your time, Campbell Newman. I hope to catch up with you very soon to give us a bigger update on this election. Very important one. Thank you for your time.